Good morning and welcome to the programme. It is so important to maintain social distancing. We are going to talk to two people who have a lot of expertise on this in a minute, Ronan and Kate. And we're also going to be taking all your comments, all your views, reflecting those in this programme in a very informative, non-adversarial approach in a nice relaxed way, and also dealing with facts. We're going to have the very latest locally and nationally. We're also going to think about mothers today because, as we know, Sunday is Mother's Day. Yesterday we had a themed day regarding the Eurovision Song Contest. Your favourite Eurovision song, Kate? Anything come to mind?
All kinds of everything.
All kinds of everything. Ronan?
Oh, it has to be Waterloo.
Waterloo, yeah. We played the two of those yesterday.
Johnny Logan as well. I better give Johnny a shout.
So what we want to do is...
What's another year?
What's another year? We want people to text in if they want to text in regarding Mother's Day songs that they'd like to hear, especially for Mother's Day. What about something like this? So text in whatever songs you want for Mother's Day and any... We won't be able to play all the requests for all the mammies out there, but we are going to do something special. We have a prize also from Faith Leg House Hotel. It's regarding afternoon tea and a spa treatment for later in the year. So all we want you to do, and this is courtesy of Mulligan's Pharmacy and mulliganspharmacy.com. So text us in your mammy stories, anything funny, serious or downright crazy. 083 3333 975, or you can call Audrey on 051 846 123. And we are going to give away something else now as well, because we have Ronan Mulligan and Kate Mulligan in here to talk to us. This is not, as we say, an advertising slot. Just like when we have politicians on regarding this matter, it's not got to do with political parties. This has got to do because you're two pharmacists, you're two people that do sponsor this show, 100% honest with the audience. But the reason we have you in is because we want to know how things have been happening in the last week. You're the biggest pharmacy in Waterford and the southeast, effectively, and we want to hear what it's like at the coalface, and also the advice and your feelings about how things are happening. Ronan Mulligan, how many people have you dealt with in the past 10 days?
Well, it's thank you for having both Kate and I on, Damien. It's been an extremely challenging couple of weeks, but, you know, we operate in the healthcare industry. We understand the challenges. I think it's the people out there where, you know, I suppose we're extremely concerned for our existing patients, future patients. But the last few weeks, you know, obviously through fear, and fear breeds darkness. You have so many people accessing services. We've seen 50,000 people through our doors in the last 10 days.
50,000?
50,000, yeah. We just did through transactions and prescription dispensings. And, you know, our business was created on a face-to-face model that you came in to see the pharmacist. It's not a self-service model for most intents and purposes. Everything that we do requires an assistant, a qualified person or a pharmacist. You know, we have consultation rooms, and, you know, the model is everyone still wants to. We can't. I suppose that model is broken for now. We're trying to, you know, we're trying to look after the patients, but obviously we can't satisfy that one-to-one with everyone.
I understand.
But we need to give as much information as possible.
In terms of the figures, how many would you normally see in a 10-day?
You'd be literally half that.
Half that. So the numbers have doubled.
The other underlying illnesses in the community haven't gone away, whether you have a heart condition or cancer. So being able to kind of create touch points for those people as well. It's critical. So, you know, last week, obviously, we had a big spike, and it was throughout the economy where people just went out and bought. It created a huge problem. You know, people who were looking for 6 months' supplies of medicine. So it was all about kind of, people were only getting used to the idea of what was to come. So we asked people, look, we can't do that now because it's going to deny other people's medicines. Yeah. There was a big spike in the...
And have you, I know your staff, and I'm going to ask Kate about the staff now in a second. Have you kept everything at the same? You're not putting up prices. No. You're not taking advantage of this. Like, people will make money out of this, and you're going to make money out of this, which is just a fact of life. It's not in any way saying it's good or bad. This is the fact of life, because people do look for pharmacists. They look for expertise. They look for advice, and that's the way it is.
Right now, this is the last thing on our mind.
It's not about money. Exactly. I know it's not.
Like, if whether it's a vocation or not, and you end up in, you know, the frontline healthcare, it's just what you do. You face the challenge every day. I suppose the accuracy of our decision making has been passed out with the need for new decisions. It's nothing to do, if we sell, we've rejected any amount of hand sanitizers because I couldn't justify charging €25, even though that's the price you just couldn't put it out there. Absolutely. Because people would lose trust in you. We are keeping a constant supply of medicines. There's no price increases. In fact, there's been price decreases and services. We now hopefully will move, like all pharmacies are challenged. This isn't about Mulligans. It's about people in the hospitals, in the surgeries. Correct. They're extremely challenged. And it's about an industry working together with the community. And they're beginning to understand, the new results, the new norm.
Kate, before we say anything more, I want to praise every pharmacist, not just Mulligans, but every pharmacist and every person working in pharmacies. I've been to a few pharmacies in the last 10 days myself, getting a few products. The calmness, the collectiveness, the professionalism and the kindness is phenomenal.
Well, thank you very much for acknowledging that, Damien. And it is so true, because we have seen it with our own pharmacists who are working so hard from before the doors open and long after the doors open, because there's such a backlog every day that we have to play catch up. We've had to introduce closing hours at lunchtime simply so people can just get a breather for, a half hour or so. So we're closed for an hour, but a half hour of that is everybody gets lunch at the same time, so that when we're open, it's all hands on deck, and there is a half hour in the middle of the day for catch up. But those pharmacists and our technicians and our front of house staff as well, they're all, it's the same effort from everybody, and they're all extremely willing to, provide that service. And they are at risk, we're just like the doctors. We're in just as high a risk category as the doctors, because, the doctor surgeries are seeing less and we're seeing more. We didn't go down the route of wearing face masks until now because they haven't been available. It's not that we want to protect us and they're not available to the public. If we wear a face mask, it stops us from touching our face. If we don't touch our faces, we're not going to contaminate anything. So it is in the public interest and safety that we are adopting these measures of face masks and gloves, even though it might look like, they're all fine in there. They're not going to, catch the virus from us, but we don't want to give it to anybody either.
To hell with how it looks. It has to be important.
Yes.
It has to be right. I got a text from my sister in London, and her best friend is working in the hospital. He's fully gowned up. There's been a corona death in that hospital where he's working. It's like something out of a movie. It's like something out of Contagion.
It's very surreal.
It's like we're all going to wake up from this someday and say that was a dream. But it's not a dream. One little simple bit of advice, I put it up on Twitter last night, Ronan. Use the non-dominant hand for doorknobs, transport, bathrooms, etc., because it's very difficult for you to touch your face with that hand. In Korea, they use this and spread it widely. So I put it up on Facebook.
That's interesting, yeah.
So your non-dominant hand. So just imagine if you are going in, opening a door with your right hand, try to imagine you're going to do everything with your left hand and your opposite hand, because you normally will only touch your face with your dominant hand.
And also try and use your knuckles instead of your fingers.
Very much so,
because you will put your fingers to your face, but you don't put your knuckles to your face.
Yeah.
Pull your cuff down over your hand to open a door handle, even if it's a non-dominant one. Pull your cuff down.
Yeah.
And I also think with regard to coughing, I wear a scarf the whole time because I don't think my sleeve, I have particularly long arms, I don't think my sleeve is going to catch it, so I wear a scarf and I just simply cough into the scarf.
Yeah.
Or my kids, most young people wear hoodies. Pull up the neckline over your mouth to cough, that'll catch everything. So there are simple little things that will improve compliance.
I want to talk about people that are not getting the message in a few minutes. Ronan first. How do you think people are handling this first?
Look, it's kind of like the herd in the Serengeti, and you've seen it on David Attenborough's shows where one or two slip away, but generally through fear they rejoin the herd. And I think the events of the last few weeks where people point to Temple Bar or maybe Cheltenham, I think that actually was helpful really in the longer term and brought everyone back into the herd. It shook people. And you can't point the finger because we didn't have all the information 10 days ago. And it may have been wrong, but I actually believe the pubs in Waterford would have been full Patrick's Day if we didn't have the Temple Bar incident. Because the message wasn't getting across.
Wasn't getting out there.
No, but they did us a huge favour. But unwittingly, it doesn't make it right. But what has happened since, we have seen a huge kind of swing towards the behaviour that we need in store, where people now stand away from each other. The message got across. This is a lot more serious. If you listen to the mayor of Bergamo this morning in Italy, they're near all the ski resorts, and that's apparently where all this has happened. It's come down from the ski resorts, and to use that term, I mean, we've new terms for people. Kids are vectors. People who've been on holidays are super spreaders. They're very kind of difficult to comprehend, but it's trying to shock people. And we've shocked people through these events. They're not right. I thought they were terrible that they happened, but they have helped us. And now,
well, at least they happened in an early stage.
Yeah. There's a new norm emerging where people stand in store. Certainly for us, how people are, waiting in line outside the store. Whereas a week ago they weren't accepting this.
Yeah.
So we've conditioned people to their behaviours are changing. Certainly,
I still don't think we're doing enough. I think we need to basically take a lot more decisive action. And it may be the idea of being a little bit rude to somebody, but if somebody's coming right up to your space, you have to say, I'm sorry, can you please step back? You have to say that.
In our experience now, that's few and far between. The general public are phenomenal. They're really
in certain cohorts and age groups, Kate, we've watched people not far from here congregating in groups of 2s or 3s, mammies or children and daddies, and having chats, and you're just thinking, lads, we're in the eye of the storm in this. This is an invisible killer. This is the type of thing that if you think you're not going to get it, you're an arrogant, selfish person, in my opinion, because you're effectively like the driver in a car that is carrying a killer virus. That virus might get out of the car and kill somebody, might come back and kill you. Like the figures, do you know the figures in Holland, in the Netherlands? The most recent figures last night, 50% of people that are now hospitalised with COVID are under the age of 50.
It's the median age for this disease is 43.
Yeah.
Now, the younger people believe this is a virus or a disease that's going to infect the elderly. So they feel a little bit. That's one of the things that even if they don't feel near as vulnerable. No. But if people understand that the median age is 43, okay, and that means if they're not behaving properly, they're going to put pressure on the healthcare system. If they're not observing the new rule, the new norm. If you break an egg, you can't put it back together. Let's keep the egg intact. The community, for the most part, that we can see is behaving. But I think maybe you're right. The younger people need to be reminded. Like last night on RT, I think Dr. Kate Motherway said, "Look, phenomenal. Behave like a pariah."
Yeah.
Your space is important to you. Yeah. You're protecting your children. Be like a rabid mother, almost a rabid animal. Do not let anyone near your space. You need to be harsh on people who breach that. Now, most people, maybe the younger people need to be harder on each other. There's an ad running on TV at the minute about asking someone to put on, it's very apt at the time, a safety belt in the back of your car. He asks first to do it nicely, and then he says, lots of things go through his head. Put it on. I'm at risk if you don't.
Yeah.
So
this virus is very important as well, Kate. The virus doesn't spread on its own. This virus is spread by people. It's people spread this virus.
Yeah, it's contact.
People spread. So we are potentially accomplices.
Yes.
To murder.
Everybody.
That's how far as I would go with this. And this message, I'm serious about this. I lay awake last night thinking about this. If you do something wittingly that potentially is going to get you as a carrier of the virus and you give that to somebody else, you are possibly the cause of somebody's death.
I think that
think about it.
The people that can control
the reason the median age is much lower than what it was anticipated to be, because initially, it was the elderly were the very vulnerable, and they are the very vulnerable. But anybody with the underlying conditions out there are just as vulnerable or even more vulnerable. So the elderly have all locked themselves up. And it's now, you see, the elderly are locked up. So it's the people with the underlying conditions, and there are a lot of people out there with heart conditions and diabetes, which fall into that category, or people with serious respiratory complications. So all of those can spread across any age group, and they're the very vulnerable. And the people who are on chemotherapy they're locked up, and the immunocompromised are locked up. But it's people who don't think they're vulnerable who are on cardiac meds, and so that's why the median age has come down.
Yeah.
They're the complicated cases that are in the hospitals.
And the image that I could think of again was this image of you being the getaway driver in a car. You think you're not robbing the bank, you think you're not going and doing the crime, but you are an accomplice to this potential crime. Because people are going to die over the next few weeks and months, and you do not want to be responsible for anybody's death.
Look, we have to avoid a situation. Many people have heard the mayor of Bergamo on this morning, which is a small city it's the size of 140,000 people. They've had hundreds and hundreds of deaths. It's an absolute tragedy. A community has died.
And we can do something about this.
Absolutely. That's why we need to be stark. If you want to see the daylight, you have to see the darkness and say, this is what could happen. You know, I did meet someone last week who said to me, who has an underlying illness, and this is probably, unfortunately, ignorance, and he won't mind me saying this, and I'm not going to use his name, but that I just want to get this over and done with and move on. I said, it's not as simple as that. You know, it's not like a cold, you get it 3 days. You know, you can develop severe symptoms from this. And if you choose to get it, you could pass it on. So if you don't behave properly, you choose to get it. And we have to condition people now. This is a new norm. This isn't for next week and the week after. Everyone should postpone this 29th of April and 29th of March date in their minds. This is going right into May and possibly June. This is a 3-month experiment. All the social norms, all the things we've enjoyed over the last 10 years or 20, 30 years in terms of how Ireland has been created are gone. We have to start again. You know, we're beginning to draw on local, the whole element of local. You know, people, if they... You know, mental illness is a big issue now. But if you go and help the darkness that envelops you, the best way out of that is helping people around you. A, by conditioning your behaviour. B, looking after a neighbour. You'll begin to see how you can, you know, your value to the community. We feel as the pharmacy business, the pharmacy industry, we feel a real value to the community right now. And we're proud to be part of it. But the big winners here, we can't stop this. It's the community can stop this.
I think your messages are so very important. They're so very calm and reassuring. In terms of people out there, Kate, just what would you say to them this morning?
Well, there's a lot of, from like a nutritional and medical perspective, there's lots of supplements and that you can take to strengthen your immune system, you know. So we have... All of our staff have had, training, and they've been upskilled in this in the past few days. And we're recommending to anybody out there who can take these supplements. There's some people can't, but that will involve a consultation with your pharmacist on a one-to-one. But most people should be taking zinc lozenges. That's zinc with vitamin C.
Okay.
Take them like a few times during the day, because zinc does stop the virus from getting from the back of the throat and adhering to the windpipe.
Very good. And
it stops it from adhering to the lungs. So that is one thing that's very powerful. For years, zinc has been known to be really important for the immune system. I mean, we wouldn't go anywhere without zinc lozenges, including a sun holiday. So they come with us on ski holidays, sun holidays, going away for a weekend. Our kids have them in school, they have them in college, because they do work. The moment you feel something coming on,
Excellent.
Hit it with zinc. Echinacea is another very powerful immune booster also. Which helps you to build your defences against catching this virus. If somebody does get the virus and they come down with symptoms, elderberry, which is Sambucol, it's very hard to get at the moment. It's only available in the stocks that are out there in the existing stocks, rather, in stores are being depleted. So the children's liquid is the only one that seems to be available at the moment. So we're recommending for adults to take that as double the dose, but only if they get symptoms. That is not an immune booster, it's a treatment. So if you become symptomatic, that's a very good product to be taking. That is available, as it happens, in a hot drink called Echinoforce hot drink, which has echinacea and elderberry, so that if you're taking that now, and we're recommending it for the vulnerable, not for the healthy adults who don't have underlying conditions. We are recommending this for the vulnerable so that they're building their immune system, and if they do become symptomatic, because before people become symptomatic, you've got the virus for a few days and it's actually building, and then you get the symptoms. So what we're recommending is you take this, you're building your immunity with the echinacea, and then the elderberry kicks in when you do become symptomatic, and that actually helps to stop the virus from spreading once it gets into the cells and it breaks it down. There's an extensive list there of vitamin C's and vitamin D, which all help.
And all the pharmacists in Mulligan's and otherwhere can help you with that.
Absolutely.
Any little bit of advice, Ronan, at this stage now? Just for people out there, to reassure people, to calm people down.
Look, obviously we're asking people not to just show up at pharmacies looking for a prescription dispensed in 20 minutes, to try give us notice of 48 hours for repeat prescriptions. That helps us kind of manage the more essential cases and people with underlying illnesses. I mean, from our own, I can see across the network of pharmacies in Waterford City and County, I can see people, they're starting to home deliver, and we'll be doing that from next week. If people want to avoid less contact, and I'm not here to advertise, they can use our drive-through. A lot of pharmacies have online like we do. We're now asking the PSI for certain derogations so we can supply medicines online. It's breaking the norm, but we have to find a way of, at the start of every month, all your elderly patients who are on long prescriptions start to come back for their repeat medicines. In 10 days' time, that's going to put a huge pressure on the system again. So elderly people don't need to be coming into pharmacy, so we ask them to contact us or any pharmacy, and we'll find a way. We have a huge amount of people ringing us from communities in Dunmore East, Passage, Tramore. Listen, I'm available. Can I help you deliver prescriptions? We're building up a list. We have to be very careful who we give medicines to, and we have to be very careful. Well, you can't just. We have to make sure it gets. But we'll come up with a solution that works. I would say we're like everyone else. We have some hand sanitizers coming back into stock, but so do a lot of pharmacies if we're getting them. There's no profit motive here. No. We need to get them to the people.
Can I just say also in relation to people ordering prescriptions, the HSE have totally relaxed all of the difficulties that have been there to date in procuring repeat prescriptions, or people who are on what are called high-tech medicines, which are very, very difficult. There's a huge amount of paperwork involved in all of those normally, so they have relaxed all of that. So it's taking a lot of the pressures from the GPs, it's taking a lot of the pressures from us phoning GPs to try and get prescriptions for patients. So that is going to be a huge help for us over the coming
and what's the name of that product?
2 months.
The product again that you mentioned with the berries and echinacea.
Sambucol, which has elderberry in it, but Echinaforce hot drink has echinacea and elderberry. That is only just coming back into our stores today. There's one other thing that I want to say about immune boosters. Anybody who is not on vitamin D to date should go on it now and take a bolus, what's called a bolus dose, like a high dose of vitamin D. So take 4 times the recommended just in one dose. I was speaking to Gemma Kehoe. I know you've had her on before on your programmes, and she is a mine of information. And, if you go in with a very high dose, take it now and then just take the normal. There's just 1 or 2 categories of people who cannot take vitamin D, but almost everybody out there can, and that is a good immune booster.
Very good advice. Ronan, finally.
I think in terms of our city, in terms of our county, the parallel plan here, along with the healthcare action plan, is we need an economic plan to make sure that all the businesses that are out there, reopen with the same vigour. I'd urge anybody in business whose doors are closed now is to contact the various authorities, whether it's the Enterprise Board, but even look at new ways of having, look at why should you have a website, look at new ways of sourcing product. We need to reopen with a sense of urgency. We need governments to, I suppose, ensure there's cash flow. And I'll be working, with Retail Excellence Ireland, as with many others, to achieve that. But we need that plan in place as well.
Can people give flowers for Mother's Day? Is it still safe to give flowers for Mother's Day?
I would think it's pretty safe to give flowers for Mother's Day
because
I would think it's pretty safe. You know, you're taking the flowers from the florist.
Yeah.
You know,
you might have to wipe down.
When you get home, just after you've put them into a vase, sanitize your hands straight away.
Okay.
You know, and
Mum
that's
is still mum.
safe.
Mum is still mum.
Yeah, and they do deserve the flowers this year more than ever. You know, just that list that the products I've been talking about. If it's not on our website this morning, it will be on our website this afternoon if anybody wants to access it.
Super. Okay, thank you so much. Ronan, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sponsoring this programme, because it's companies and businesses like yourselves that keep stations like this going and keep this public service broadcasting going. Thank you very much. Do you want to give away a little prize for Mother's Day? Do you want to give? Will we go mad? Give something.
I was going to finish with the John Milan comment. I loves me county, but yeah, look, you want something for Mum? Well, we will we will create a €250 hamper for someone. You find the right mum for that. In fact, we'd need a million €250 hampers, but we have one.
You're
anyway.
Very good. Thank you very much. People text in the word Mulligans, Mulligans, Mulligans. Text us in here to the show, 083 333 975. We'll give a €250 hamper. Ronan, really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
And Damien, your service to the community in terms of keeping them informed is invaluable.
Thank you. And we're going to be talking about keeping stations like this going, because it is so important, and I genuinely appreciate that. I really do. Okay, Kate, thank you very much.
Thank you, Damien.
To you and all your staff, Ronan and Kate. Take care and mind yourselves. Now we're going to be talking about the Leaving Cert in a second. We're going to be talking to Catherine Donnelly from the Irish Independent. What you think of the Leaving Cert, the mocks, the orals, being not going ahead, and also the possibility of the Leaving Cert itself, what's going to happen there. Thank you everybody for texting in the Mulligans. Thanks to Ronan for giving us that extra special prize, €250 hamper. Fair play to you, Ronan, for doing that. And we have gone for Joe O'Brien. We've gone for a man who loves the mammy, Joe O'Brien from Ballin Road. Well done, Joe. You're a winner of that Mulligans €250 hamper. Keep your texts coming in regarding the competition for Fate Leg. Again, text in any little stories about your mammy, especially for the weekend that's in it. And this is part of Mulligan's Pharmacy, an afternoon tea and spa treatment in Fate Leg House Hotel, 083 333 975. I have a lot of information to give out about COVID action groups to help people. Firstly, I know Catherine's on the line. Catherine, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Catherine, thank you so much for joining us. First time I've spoken to you since this crisis started.
Indeed.
Tell me, a lot of anger out there, a lot of some young men and women delighted because they weren't very good at Irish or French or music or whatever, and they're now going to be getting 100% in their orals. What's your feeling on this?
Well, when I asked this question yesterday, would some people feel cheated because the students who are going to do well in them anyway will now feel that all their effort and talent is going to waste because students who wouldn't have performed as well are going to get the same 100% in this segment of the exam. However, I got some figures from the Department of Education, and in relation to orals and practicals, generally students do better in the orals and practicals than they do in the written exams. And for instance, in Irish, generally students get about the average mark. The average mark in the oral Irish is about 82%. So a lot of students are doing very well in Irish. So weaker ones obviously will benefit, but an awful lot of students are doing very well in Irish. In music is another one affected by yesterday's cancellations. Generally, the average mark in music is about 90%. So obviously a lot of students are getting 100% and well into the 90s and into the 80s to have such a high average. And then the same with the other with modern languages that have also been cancelled. The average scores tend to be around in the 80s or in the 70s. So generally students do well in these, and they do better in these than they do in the written exams. What it'll mean is that for those who, if the written exams go ahead, and there's still at the moment in theory they're going ahead, but obviously with each passing day, if it doesn't if it extends into longer than they hope for, and that the written exams will be threatened. But it will mean that when it comes to the written exams, the really good students will have to do very well there, I suppose, to mark themselves out from others who have now got the benefit of this 100% in the oral, for the orals or practicals.
Yeah, and a texter in Alice, Damien, the orals, we spent a lot of money on grinds. What about that? That's another thing. People have sent children to the Gaeltacht. They've, all these things.
That's the reality, yeah. But look, it was all learning. And sure, who wouldn't want to have a Gaeltacht experience?
Yes.
I've spent several years in the Gaeltacht, and it's all part of life's rich tapestry, and it's all part of learning. So
the walls of Limerick, the siege of Ennis, huh?
I know, yeah, but so it's not, yeah, but that's all to the child's benefit, whether or not they ever sit an exam in it. So I suppose people have to look at it like that they want to educate their children and give them a rich experience of life, and whether that's helping them to hone study skills or to have other experiences like going to the Gaeltacht and developing some independent living habits and meeting friends outside their own comfort zones. Well, it's all good for them. And the studying that children have done for things like the orals and practicals now, even though they're not being tested on them now, and some will be disappointed, they will stand to them when it comes to going on to college or as a life skill. Learning how to study and is very important. So there's nothing has been wasted. I know some people feel they've spent money on but they did that at the time when they felt it was the right thing to do. Nothing will be wasted. It's all down to their sons and daughters.
Catherine, you're the education correspondent with the Irish Independent, and well done for keeping the show on the road. Like ourselves here, it's very, very difficult, these very difficult times, media organisations, and we do it for different reasons, particularly to inform the public. In terms of your thoughts about the summer, do you think the Leaving Cert is going to go ahead?
Well, we don't know. Yesterday, the Minister for Education said at the moment they were working on the basis that it would go ahead, and it's very much the hope it will go ahead, because the Leaving Cert isn't all about CAO and college entry, but the reality is for about 80%, 75-80% of students who have applied to the CAO, that is, they would be sort of relying on that as a selection mechanism for college. So that does create problems if the written exams don't go ahead. But as of yesterday, the Minister for Education was saying, well, yeah, we're working on the basis that the written exams will happen. I do think if things become very problematic and if this is seriously extended, that it's more, that the priority will be the Leaving Cert. And if anything is to go, it would be the junior cycle written exams. They will always keep the priority as the Leaving Cert. Now, last night, the Taoiseach moved that on a bit last night when he mentioned May. He said schools could be shut until May. So that if school closures are being extended into May, that means that they think that the situation could, the serious situation we're in now, and when we haven't even seen the worst of it, that it could still be a serious situation in May. And if that happens, then you'd be saying, well, if it's bad in May, can we even hope that we can do anything in June? But, it's not beyond the bounds. If the exams had to be pushed back a couple of weeks, that might be possible.
See, what the medical people are going to do, Catherine, is they're going to come out of this very slowly. So even if there's only going to be 10 cases a day in Ireland, they'll get things back to normal very, very slowly.
Very slowly.
The last potential group getting back to normal would be children in terms of schools.
Well, I know I was doing some research last week on what's been happening in China.
Yeah.
And one province up there where they hadn't had a case, they weren't badly affected. There were some up near Tibet. They weren't badly affected, but they hadn't had a case since the 6th of February. And last week, this was about 5 weeks on, last week they were looking at a phased reopening of schools, but that was 5 weeks after not having had a confirmed case.
Yeah.
So,
Catherine, we might talk to you next week. Listen, thank you and mind yourself and your family,
thank
okay?
You. All right, thank you. Thanks.
Take it easy, Catherine. Catherine Donnelly there. Keep your texts and comments coming in. Damien, great advice from Mulligan's and WLR, and each presenter giving continuous advice would be lost without you. Thank you very much. Damien, my mother went to a supermarket in Tramore yesterday. She kept her distance. A man came behind her, stood at her back literally. She was nervous and shocked. She asked him, would he mind moving back? He ignored her. When she finished at the till, he stood beside her and said to the cashier, "Oh no, we're all going to get the virus," and laughed. My mother turned around and said to him, "Yes, and it's ignorant people like you that will make sure of that." And that man was old enough to know that was his attitude. Some people just don't care. Damien, I was passing by a coffee shop in town in the last while. 6 teenagers huddled round a table. Also people outside it. Some people are not getting the message. Keep your texts and your comments coming in. We're thinking of mammies today and mammies this weekend. Now, keep your texts and your comments coming in. We'll do our Gimme a Break competition after 11. Going to continue our second Mulligan's competition now, and that is going to be regarding the Fate Leg voucher. So text in Mulligan's, please. I'm going to talk to Gabrielle in a second about business matters. Talking to Jim Griffin last night, whatever about supplies for people to people's homes. Most people just want a bit of chat, a bit of communication, and want to see people. Remember the COVID-19 Waterford Action Group number 051 871 695. That's 051 871 695. Lots of services have been provided by sports and community groups. Passage East and Crook Development Association just on to me. They were saying they've started a help service for people in the community, particularly the elderly and the infirm. For example, they're going to operate a home shopping service from 11 to 6 every day, 7 days a week. Call a committee member or the helpline number 089 216 4638, 089 216 4638. So if you want to ring a shop, put in your order, they might be very busy or too busy to do home deliveries. A member of the Development Association will go out and collect the food, bring it to your home. I know they're doing the same in Kilmac, doing the same down in Ardmore, doing the same in every other different community. It's great to see. Gabrielle Cummins, there's so much positivity out there. That's the first thing we want to say. There's a lot of things happening, which is great to see.
It is, and community spirit has absolutely come out to the fore, and certainly in this building alone, between the two companies, I think both teams have really risen to the challenge and are very focused on the fact of what a valuable, essential service that radio provides to so many people, especially if you're in self-isolation, and you're at home, and the radio is a fantastic companion, and so we're really focused on continuing to deliver important information and entertain.
So, Gabrielle Cummins, you used to work in the news team with WLR.
I did, yeah.
And you are now CEO or head of Beat 103, 102, 103. And I know you for many years, 20 years. Thank you for coming into us. The reason we have you in is because there is this perception out there that, no matter what happens, radio stations, newspapers, even TV stations, they'll all be grand. That's not what's happening on the ground. So, for example, we're totally reliant on advertising.
Yes.
And advertising in the last 3 to 4 weeks, 2 weeks in particular,
plummeted.
Yeah. It's really collapsed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're part of an organisation, a general body, a group that is looking to call on the government to say, support vital services. And this is not us whinging or anything like that.
No.
This is purely and utterly stating the facts as it is. As I say, we deal in facts on the radio station, you do in Beat as well. So, for example, we're going to talk about what needs to be done. Here's a quick clip of Minister Richard Bruton. He just put this out in the last few minutes regarding what's called, I suppose, a fund that we as independent radio stations pay towards the government. Here's what Richard Bruton had to say.
So what I've done today is I've arranged that the BAI would waive 2/4 of the levy that is paid to the BAI. That will be close to €1 million worth of immediate relief. I'm also asking the BAI to do an assessment urgently of the financial impact that is occurring to local radio stations, so this can influence our decision making as we move along.
OK, the BII is the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland, and a levy is an amount of money that radio stations, independent or local radio stations, pay towards the government, effectively to be allowed to
run the broadcasting. Well, that's the money is used to fund the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland. So every single radio station in Ireland, so there are 34 independent radio stations, and we all have to pay a certain amount of levy to the government to fund the BAI based on the amount of revenue that we bring in. So yes, this is a welcome development today. To be honest, that has come on the back of huge lobbying on our part. I'm a director on the Independent Broadcasters of Ireland, and I spent Tuesday night, as did every other member of the IBI, contacting every single TD. So, in Beat's franchise area, we have 19 TDs. So I contacted all 19 of them and saying, look, we are trying to deliver news and current affairs and keep our services going, but we have serious challenges to face ahead, and we need support in delivering those funds. So on the back of all that lobbying, the government has today announced that they're not going to charge each station the levy for the first 6 months of the year. So let's just put a bit of context to that. The levy to Beat costs us about $3,000 a month. So that's going to be a saving of about 18,000 for the first 6 months of the year. That's great. That's welcome, but it's not enough. If you take, for instance, the news and current affairs of the Beat department and how much it costs us to deliver content on air online across all the areas that we send information to our listeners, as does WLR. So this is a similar scenario for WLR. Like you're talking in the region of say circa 30 grand. So 30 grand by 6 months is 180,000, and our revenues have been slashed. So there's a bit of a gap there, and we are a big gap. So we're delighted to hear that he has now asked the BAI to conduct an urgent assessment of the financial situation of radio stations as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that needs to happen immediately, and we'll be following up with the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland today to say, yes, we welcome the levy, but that's just step one. We need step two to happen fairly lively, because it's going to be difficult. And, we have so many valuable advertisers, and we understand everyone is dealing with extreme circumstances and unprecedented. And, we really appreciate, so many businesses are doing their best to keep working with us, and we will continue to work with all of them, as well, all the local stations in Ireland. But the reality is, not everyone's going to be able to continue to advertise. So we want to continue to deliver this service.
Yeah. And the other reality is, you will get essential services like pharmacists that will say, OK, we need to get our message out there, and that's good. But advertising is one of the budgets within any business that is one of the first to be cut.
Absolutely. And we understand that. But we don't want to cut delivering on essential services that we deliver, which is news and current affairs. And we don't have the licence fee that the state broadcaster has. No. So we do need support to deliver that. And I really, I'm confident that we will keep up the pressure, and we will be again asking for all of our TDs. I wrote to everybody in Waterford. I've heard back from David Cullinan and from Mary Butler so far. Hopefully the others will be in touch and acknowledge the support that we need.
And it's again, our listeners, and they constantly text us, they text yourselves, they text us, WLR and Beat, and I said we're sister companies working out of the broadcast centre here in Arkeen, which is a fabulous building. Yeah. And fair play to Des Whelan and everybody for keeping things going, and yourselves over the years. People think that, sure, it'll be fine. It's not. We need support as well. We need not just people's support. If you're seeing your politician, if you're talking to them, if you're an advertiser, if you're a business person, you think, OK, let's see what we can do. Let's work out some sort of a...
If you're online, you might have noticed a hashtag that was trending yesterday was hashtag Trust Radio, Choose Radio. And we're trying to, in the IBI, to just create a bit of awareness around how important it is for us to deliver that service and continue to deliver that service. So we'd just be asking everyone to back us and support us in as we endeavour to get the support that's really needed from the government.
Gabrielle Cummins, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Now, keep your texts and your comments coming in. Brian Tynan, a pharmacist, a very concerned pharmacist, has texted in to say, Damien, just to clarify, HSE and WHO guidance is not to wear face masks unless you are attending a patient who you know or strongly suspect has COVID-19. General public and staff in shops don't need to wear them and are not recommended to do so. Can you please clarify this to the public? So that's the HSE and World Health Organization guidelines, is not to wear face masks unless you are attending to patients who you know or strongly suspect have the virus. Keep your texts and your comments coming in. I'm going to go to Liz now with the news at 11.